Yeah, I think all our young guys have improved. You look at what C.J. Will and Myers did in summer league. They had a very good summer league. They played well. Myers and C.J. and Allen played well at Coach Gerg's camp in Vegas. September has been very good. So those three guys, obviously in particular, along with Allen, made the strides that we were hoping for. So we'll see what happens during the course of the season. But I'm happy with the progress they made.
After a 54-win season and a second-round playoff appearance, you come in this year. Obviously, the outside world has different expectations. Where are your expectations for this team?
Expectations are to stay in the moment, to work the process. I know it sounds cliche, but last year our expectations were make the playoffs and beyond. Not be satisfied with that. I've never been involved with a team that looked at a certain number of wins, whether we were a 60-win team in Seattle or a below 500 team. It's about the process and trying to be the best team that you could be. That being said, I think that we have to accept the responsibility of being an elite team. We've established ourselves as a good team. We have to know why we're a good team and what we have to do to get better. Well, elite team to me is a team that is in the conversation. It's there have been elite teams that lost in the first round, but they're elite teams. So elite team to me is that you're contending for championships, that you're that you're in the mix with the other teams. I think that the other teams last year, based on last year, is we were very competitive with every other team that was in the playoffs. The challenge that we have is that we have to sustain our success, and those other teams have done it for consecutive years, and that's going to be our biggest challenge is sustaining what we did last year.
How do you look at some of the wins in the record? I know you kind of just answered that, but a great start last year. How do you go through the first 28 games of the season and say, well, we were 24-4 last year, we're whatever this year, and make those comparisons? How do you avoid that? The thing that happened, and I don't want to dwell too much on last year, but the thing that I was most proud of last year is winning 9 out of our last 10. The season could have gone either way. We lost to Orlando and came back and won 9 out of 10, and not only did we secure the playoffs, but we got the 5th seed and tied Houston. So that's why you play 82 games. I mean, we got off to a great start, and I'm not going to apologize for a great start or losing some close games in the middle of the season, but finishing strong and being the best team that we can possibly be going into the playoffs. So the schedule takes care of themselves. You got to get wins where you can. We emphasized being a better road team last year. We emphasized beating the below 500 teams last year, and that was a key part of our getting 54 wins.
Coach,
just to be ready. The biggest thing is we stayed very healthy last year. Obviously, our starters played minutes because they stayed healthy. They were very good playing together, and we're going to rely on the starters as well this year. So that means the younger players are just going to have to be ready when their time comes. I couldn't tell you right now how many minutes they're going to play, when they're going to play, but I have confidence in all of them. But they need to be ready when their time comes. It's still about the process and expectations. Look, I think everybody on our team, everybody in the locker room, expect a lot of ourselves, and I think that we all realize that a lot of hard work went into that season last year. And even though the expectations were low, I don't think that we had low expectations of ourselves. So this year, it's about continuing to do the things that got us to the success that we had last year. And we need to be a better defensive team. We need to realize what made us a good offensive team and stick with that. After that, it's you just play the games.
Coach, is there anything you've done differently in the lead up to this season? Anything you've added to your repertoire? Any just changes to your process?
I go back and forth. I look at a lot of the teams that have sustained success since I've been in the league, going back to Jerry Sloan's team in Utah or San Antonio or Phil Jackson's teams in Chicago and Lakers, Dallas over the years. I think the important thing is we're very fortunate that we have an identity, particularly at the offensive end. We have to do what we do well. So I don't want to tweak that too much. Certainly I'm going to make some changes at the offensive end to some degree, but we have to do what we do well. And we have the good fortune of knowing what that is. Defensively, we made a big jump defensively going from 25th to 16th. We were in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage. So we made a big jump last year. The thing that goes through my mind is building on the changes that we made at the defensive end, and then looking more at some of the weaknesses that we can shore up this year. Not really. When you have 13 players coming back, and by most accounts, you can look at whether last year was a success or a failure. We lost to San Antonio, and our goal is to keep improving. But I don't think we're going to change a lot. But we'll make some adjustments. But again, looking at the teams that have been able to sustain success, they do what they do well, and they don't allow any slippages in those areas that they do well.
I know that you're big on teaching, but with guys in their contract here, how do you keep the focus on the basketball as the coach?
We all know when a team wins, everybody wins, and that's ultimately the message. Whether every player on the roster is competitive, they want to do well, they want to play, that's to be expected. But from a coaching standpoint, the most important thing is winning and creating a winning culture. And from my standpoint, that's going to be my point of view. That's going to be where I'm coming from. Certainly, everybody wants to do well for themselves, and that's human nature. I've been in that situation as a player, whether it be overseas or in the NBA. You're worried about how things affect you, but the overriding goal and understanding has to be that winning supersedes everything, and when teams win, everybody benefits.
Terry, what do Kamen and Blake give to this club? Kamen and Blake, what do they give to this club, and how much better do you think the bench will be this year?
Well, I'll start with Chris, and Chris averaged more points last year than anybody we had off our bench, and I think what Chris and Steve both come here is with a desire to win. And I think that's good. One of the strengths, as Joe Freeman pointed out, was our chemistry. And I think the goal of winning, and those two guys came here with the purpose of winning, will help with that chemistry. From an X&O standpoint, Chris is an excellent mid-range shooter, similar to LaMarcus. He can defend other centers. He can play with LaMarcus. I'll look to see if he can play with Robin a little bit. He's a smart basketball IQ guy, so I think he'll pick up our style of play. It's different than some of the other styles that he's played. Steve Blake has been a consummate professional, and he pushes the ball as well as Mo did last year. I think he will help other players get shots. He's a very good defender. I think Damian will enjoy playing with him as well. I don't have necessarily a number of minutes that I plan on playing either one of them, but I certainly think that the experience and the talent that they bring off the bench is an upgrade from last year.
Staying with those guys for a minute, Neil said that both Chris and Steve wanted to come here, and that was part of the reason that they brought him in. How do you get players to want to come to Portland? What is the most important thing to get the free agents to come here as the team continues to improve?
Well, that's more, getting free agents to come here is more a Neil question than me. Players make decisions to come or go wherever based on a variety of reasons. Obviously, financial ramifications are important. Style of play, coaches, teammates. There are so many factors that opportunity to play. All those things go into a player's decision to go wherever they end up going. The things that we're going to be emphasizing will be giving up fewer transition points. I think that and fewer attempts at the rim. Our defense at the rim was actually decent. It was in the top 5 as far as field goal percentage at the rim, but we got too many times the ball got to the rim, and some of that was in transition. But understanding how we need to improve on transition defense, understanding our weak side has to get better. I know that we were 30th in the league in forcing turnovers, and that really doesn't concern me at all. You look at, I think, of the top 10 defensive teams, none of them were in the top 10 in forcing turnovers. As a matter of fact, 3 of them, I think, were in the bottom 10 in forcing turnovers. I think that we will improve in that, but it's not necessarily an overriding concern. I think when we emphasize stronger weak side principles, more alertness on the weak side, that's going to that'll lend itself to creating a few more turnovers. We made great strides in our pick and roll defense last year in various angles. The pick and rolls were occurred, and so we just want to continue along those lines with our pick and roll defense.
Terry, considering most of the players on this team hadn't won a playoff series before last year, LA, Nick, those guys had been in the playoffs but never got to that point. How important was that to win a playoff series the way they did to keep going on that path and knowing how to win a playoff series when it comes again?
Knowing how to win this league is important. It's once you cross a threshold, no matter if it's making the playoffs or winning a series, or you look back and when Detroit had their hump to get over, Chicago had to go through Detroit or whatever. Once you surpass a barrier, it's important. So winning the playoff series was important. Going into last season, one of the things that we had talked about was that we didn't have a player on the roster that had been in the playoffs the previous season. So you take these things in steps, and winning a playoff series is important. And breaking through gives you confidence to do the next breakthrough.
Terry, being that this is your team and you're a playoff team from last year, have you ever been more excited going into a season as a coach?
Not as a head coach, certainly not. I've been fortunate to be involved, associated with some very good teams in Seattle and Dallas. We had a 52-win season in Milwaukee as an assistant, but certainly as a head coach, this is the best team. Last year I said this was the best team I had, and this team should be better. So I'm excited about what we can accomplish this year.
Hey, Coach, over here to your right. You mentioned you're going to tweak the offense a little bit this season. I'm sure you don't want to give away too many secrets, but what do you, generally speaking, have in mind?
Well, we'll probably put in some different sets. I don't think our style of play is going to change at all. I want to play in flow. I want the players to have freedom to make basketball plays, trust the pass, next pass, all those things. The style of play is not going to change. Shooting threes, getting the ball to LA on the block, having multiple players be involved in pick and rolls, all those things are going to be part of it. I think the only thing that I would probably tweak is, there's a couple sets that I'd like to look at, some movement sets that something to keep things fresh. And again, I go back to the teams, whether it's, in particular San Antonio and Utah and Phil Jackson's triangle teams, is that they didn't reinvent the wheel from year to year. They had their system, their style of play. Although all those teams were different, but they all had their style of play, and they executed those things well each year. And that's what I want to continue doing. But that being said, with my style and what I like to do at the offensive end, there'll probably be different sets that we'll look at primarily in October and see how it goes, and then slowly add that to the playbook.
Terry.
Hi. Is training camp a competition in your mind for rotation spots?
Training camp is a competition no matter what. For playing time, right now we're going to start the same starters. I don't know if anybody's competing for a starting spot. But that's what October is about. That's what training camp's about, is everybody's competing for minutes. Even, starters historically, that's where you find out where you want to go. Last year, Joel Freeland won a spot in the rotation. And So, and I couldn't have said that going on this day a year ago. I couldn't have said that was going to happen, but that's what eventually came out of the month of October. So I don't know what is going to happen, but we're going to have, when we play Oklahoma City, 9 or 10 players are going to play that night, and we'll see. That's what October's for. I don't have anything set right now. In my mind, nothing is set as far as rotation minutes. It's as I mentioned earlier, I'm very pleased with the progress a lot of the young players have made. I have a lot of respect for Chris Kaman and Steve Blake. So, that's when it comes time to make those decisions, I will.
It seems like every team's chasing that elusive stability, and you guys are as stable right now from last year to now as any team in the league. What does that stability offer you, bringing back so many players, your staff, front office, etc.?
I really, it's kind of double-edged sword. The year I was out of coaching, I went to San Antonio in 2007 and watched their training camp after they won the championship. And I was there for 4 or 5 days. The first practice, Pop didn't say a word. They picked up where they left off. They were further along on the first day of practice than a lot of teams are in January. So I think we are much further ahead with what we want to do at both ends of the floor. There's a greater understanding, both as coaches and as players, of what philosophically what we want to do and how we want to do it. The danger is that you take things for granted, and when you're putting in offense or defense, say and just approaching it. I heard Pop mention that teach it like it's the first time you've taught it. And so that's going to be a challenge both from players and the coaching staff, is to approach this with fresh eyes, even though a lot of the stuff is familiar to us.